You know that feeling when you see some brand new, super high tech solution to a problem, and you just can't help but think, wait, was that really necessary? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. It's this idea, this absurdity of modern solutions.
I mean, it really gets right to the heart of our whole obsession with progress, doesn't it? We're just constantly being sold on the latest and greatest, the fastest, the most advanced. But what if, just sometimes, the best solution is actually the one we've had all along?
So, what are we actually talking about with this modern absurdity? Well, at its core, it's this weird tendency we have to overlook a simple, totally effective answer in favor of something that's, well, needlessly complicated and super expensive. And to really get a feel for it, we've got to see it in action.
All right, so for our first case study, I want you to picture this. We're heading to a historic manor house, somewhere deep in the English countryside. Now, this is a place where knowledge isn't stored on some hard drive or in the cloud. Nope, it's passed down, person to person, through the generations.
I mean, just think about that for a second. For generations, all the secrets of this house, where every single pipe is, every hidden valve, it all just lived inside the minds of the stewards. The guy there now, he learned everything from the steward before him, who learned it from his predecessor, and on it goes. It's like a living, breathing blueprint of the place. Okay, so here's the snag, at least as the steward sees it. He's the only one who knows this stuff. He's a single point of failure. And look, that's a fair point, right? If something were to happen to him, he gets hit by a bus, whatever, poof, centuries of that irreplaceable knowledge could just vanish instantly.
So what's the 21st century fix for this? Well, you guessed it, bring in the lasers. A super state-of-the-art team gets hired to create this perfect 3D digital model, a digital twin of the entire estate. It's super thorough, it's very technological, and oh yeah, it's incredibly expensive.
And this is where the absurdity just slaps you in the face. On one hand, you've got the modern fix. Lasers, 3D models, computer systems, and a build that's going to run into the hundreds of thousands of pounds. And on the other hand, the simple fix, the obvious fix? Why not just sit the steward down with a pen and a notebook? For literally a couple of pounds, less than a cup of coffee, you could get all of that essential knowledge written down.
And this is the really wild part. The logic behind it is just bizarre. Get this. They're spending a fortune on this high-tech survey right now to avoid the potential cost of having to do the exact same survey later if the worst happens to the steward. It doesn't save any money. It just locks them into paying for the most expensive option up front. It's crazy.
Okay, so this kind of over-engineering isn't just a thing in Old English manners. For our next example, we're going to shoot for the stars, literally. Let's talk about a really famous case from NASA. So here's the problem. It's actually really simple. When you're in space, there's zero gravity. That means a normal ballpoint pen won't work because there's nothing to pull the ink down to the tip. So how are astronauts supposed to write stuff down? Well, NASA's answer was to throw an absolutely massive amount of money and brainpower at this. We're talking what would be over $1 billion today, all to invent a special pen, one that could write upside down, underwater, and yeah, most importantly in the zero-G of space. And look, it was an incredible piece of engineering, for sure. But what if there was another way? A much, much simpler solution. One that didn't need a team of rocket scientists or, $1 billion budget. The pencil. That's it. The humble, good old-fashioned pencil. It works perfectly in zero gravity. It costs pennies. It's been around forever. The simple, elegant, and ridiculously cheap solution was right there the whole time. And here's the kicker. It wasn't even the only simple option. I mean, they had keyboards, on the spaceships already. They could have used those. Or they could have just used a tape recorder and dictated their notes. Literally any of those would have been worlds cheaper than inventing a brand new kind of pen. So we've seen this in engineering, we've seen it in historic preservation, but this pattern isn't just about tech. You can actually see the exact same kind of modern absurdity play out in a place you might not expect, the world of art. Okay, so here's a weird paradox for you. You can go to a museum and look at a painting by an old master, someone like Titian, and it's 500 years old and it looks almost perfect. The colors are still amazing. And then in the next room, you'll see a modern piece made with all our advanced chemistry, and it's literally crumbling, cracking, peeling, just falling apart. So what gives? Why is that happening? Well, a big part of it comes down to a totally different philosophy. See, the old masters, they weren't just trying to find the absolute brightest, most shocking color they could. They were after things like harmony, subtlety, and beauty. And they spent centuries perfecting materials that would not only achieve that look, but, and this is the key part, would last.
And when you actually compare them side by side, the trade-off we've made becomes painfully obvious. We've basically swapped durability for novelty. We've traded harmony for just bright colors. And maybe worst of all, we've swapped natural, biodegradable materials for permanent, landfill-clogging garbage.
Think about it. The old guys were using natural oils, pigments from the earth, wood panels, stuff that could all eventually return to nature. Today's art supplies, they're full of plastics, acrylics, toxic chemicals, stuff that when it's thrown out is going to sit in a landfill pretty much forever. Okay, so we've looked at the Manor House, we've looked at NASA, we've looked at the art world, and you see the same pattern. So the big question has to be, why? Why do we keep doing this? Why do we so consistently choose the complicated, expensive, and a lot of times just plain worse option? Well, the diagnosis seems to point to our modern values. We've got this obsession with novelty, new just for the sake of being new. We're addicted to speed and ease and lazy shortcuts. And of course, we're always being bombarded by great marketing and salesmanship that's promising us the next game-changing thing.
So, if that's the problem, what's the solution? What's the prescription? Well, it might sound a little radical, but maybe we need to start looking backward for the answers.
The idea here is to reintroduce some of those older values into the mix. You know, things like thrift, not being wasteful, wisdom, simplicity, being good stewards of what we have, instead of just being consumers, always chasing the next shiny new gadget. And that really leaves us with one last big thought to chew on. As we're all racing toward the future, constantly innovating and pushing forward, what important wisdom are we leaving behind in the dust? In our rush to get the new thing, what timeless, simple, and perfectly good solutions are we just forgetting? It's definitely something to think about.